Hello, and welcome back, Camels. I'm Isaac Ray.
And I'm Caitlin Edwards. This is Campbell Now. Campbell students are fully back on campus and classes are underway. The university has added new procedures to keep campus buildings clean and safe. You may have noticed that cleaning supplies have been added to each classroom, and faculty and staff are working to keep spaces clean.
Students are also urged to be aware of their surroundings. Face coverings are required in campus buildings, and classrooms are limited to only half of their maximum capacity until further notice.
Of course, we can't ignore the fact that several larger universities in our state have experienced COVID outbreaks this semester. UNC, NC State, and ECU have moved undergraduate classes online this semester. UNC Charlotte is delaying in-person instruction for several weeks. For now, our campus has not experienced a similar outbreak.
If you are concerned, though, that you may have caught the virus, the most common symptoms are listed on the university's websites. Symptoms usually show up between 2 and 14 days after the person is exposed. The most common symptoms associated with COVID-19 include fever, chills, cough, shortness of breath, or difficulty breathing. If you experience any of these symptoms or others connected to COVID-19, do not go to class. Instead, you are urged to contact your family doctor or the Campbell University Health Center.
You can find a lot of information about the virus and Campbell's response to it at the university website. Just look for the Campbell Ready section at the top of the homepage at campbell.edu.
And in other news, the Republicans have officially nominated President Donald Trump to represent their party in the upcoming election. The National Convention continues this week in Charlotte, though it is quite scaled down to prevent crowds. The Democrats officially nominated former Vice President Joe Biden last week in Wisconsin. They also scaled back their convention activities because of the virus. Election Day is November 3rd.
Of course, this election covers much more than the White House. In North Carolina, we are also choosing who will serve as governor for the next 4 years. Governor Roy Cooper is hoping to defeat challenger Dan Forest. Several other races are also on the ballot. You can see a sample ballot at the state's official website, nc.gov.
And long lines are expected on Election Day this year, and if you'd prefer, you can vote with an absentee ballot instead. In North Carolina, registered voters can vote by absentee ballot for any reason. To learn more, check out the North Carolina Board of Elections website. If you choose to vote by mail, make sure you give the post office plenty of time to deliver your ballot. Deadlines are available at the Board of Elections website.
In national news, thousands of people along the coast of Texas and Louisiana are evacuating ahead of Hurricane Laura. The storm has already taken lives in the Caribbean and now is gaining energy from the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. September is typically a busy hurricane month for North Carolina, and this year is already a busy one.
And in other news, California firefighters are trying to put out hundreds of fires that have burned more than 1 million acres. Fire season is not unusual in California, but this year is much more intense than typical years. The air is hotter than normal, and lightning strikes from storms have been common. Firefighters in the area say this year, the state is living through a mega fire era, in which fires burn larger sections of land for weeks at a time. And we'll be right back after this to bring you up to speed on everything you need to know about college sports this fall.
Hi! Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right?
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
And welcome back to Campbell Now. And we'll move our attention to sports, specifically college sports. With the COVID-19 pandemic, there's still a glimmer of hope for a college football season, and we're going to hope for the best and look on the positive side. And we'll start with the release of the first AP poll of the fall. So Caitlin, what does this poll tell you? Who do you think is ranked too high and who was too low in this first poll?
So Isaac, it was a little different this year because they have the Big Ten and Pac-12s in the poll, which obviously they're not competing until the spring. But after taking a look at the poll, I thought Notre Dame was ranked too low, which I know you might disagree with, but I think they have a lot of talent, good chance. Ian Book is coming back as a grad student, and Josh Lugg, who will be a senior this year, I think he has a lot of talent to prove. Freshman year, he didn't play once, and then by the end of his junior year, he was on the field. I think they said starting the last 5 games, maybe?
Yeah. For me, the first team I have ranked too high, I have Texas A&M. They have a lot of talent on paper. They're ranked 13th right now in this first poll, but they always seem to have a lot of talent on paper, but they just never are able to put anything together on a field. This is a big year for Jimbo Fisher. He's in a contract year at Texas A&M, and with all the talent that they have, they need to start putting together more than 8 wins, 9-win seasons. And if Jimbo Fisher can't do that at Texas A&M, I think he's going to be out because they want to be competing with the top teams in the SEC West. Toughest division in college football, in my opinion. So I think they're a little ranked too high early. I think they can be a good team. I just don't think they've shown me anything to make me believe that they deserve to be in the top 15 in the country. But I'll also counter you. You think Notre Dame's too low. I think Notre Dame's too high. They play no one, and they still can't get into the college football playoff. They'll be playing in the ACC this year, but I think that makes it even more difficult because they're used to not playing anyone. Ian Book is a great quarterback and all, but he is not a team. He's not a quarterback that's going to deliver a team to the college football playoff. I see them dropping at least 2 games this year with a harder schedule. They have to play teams like Florida State. Even NC State they're no joke. North Carolina. They have to play Clemson now. I really do not see them being a team that can make it all the way to the college football playoff unscathed. But tell me who you think's too low.
For too low, I had Notre Dame. Too high, I put UNC. I just think football-wise, they aren't the best and can choke on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. UNC, everybody's high off of Mac Brown coming back, and they've got talent, and they won some games last year. But with all the stats that they've put on, their statistics and lots of yards, lots of offense and stuff like that, they don't play defense. And if you don't play defense, you can't win games. But for me, too low was Auburn. They're ranked 11th right now. I think they definitely deserve to be in the top 10. They're very experienced on both sides of the ball. They have so many returning starters. Bo Nix, one of the top quarterbacks in his class, coming in now as a sophomore, has a whole year under his belt, more familiar with the system. I think he can light up the SEC, and that's saying a lot. KJ Britt on defense, returning as a linebacker for his senior year after earning all SEC honors last year. This is a team that not only do I think can contend in the SEC West, but I think they could win the SEC West if they get the right bounces along the way.
But Isaac, after discussing these teams, assuming these schools can get through their seasons, who do you think will be the 4 playing in college football playoff at the end of the year?
Okay, so my 4 are the usual suspects for the first 3: Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and then there's Cincinnati. And Cincinnati is kind of my dark horse coming out of the American Athletic Conference. If the American was going to get a team into the college football playoff ever, they try to always say that they're the Power 6 out of the Power 5. This is the year that's going to happen. They have, coming off of 2 really impressive years, they now have a really strong quarterback in Desmond Ridder, who last year threw for 2,164 yards, rushing for several hundred yards, and 24 total TDs. They're by far the top team in the American Athletic Conference, which I think is a conference that is only getting better, only growing, and getting more competitive. They've gone 22-5 in the past 2 seasons under Luke Fickell, who just signed a contract extension. And weird things have happened this year, so I definitely think it's possible that Cincinnati, out of the American, could sneak their way in to the college football playoff. But who do you think?
Obviously, it was a little different because sometimes you want to go with Ohio State, Penn State, but they're not playing until the spring. And especially, I was hoping for Oklahoma, but I had Clemson, Alabama, LSU, and I did have Oklahoma.
Okay, all right, yeah, absolutely. With those teams, I mean, they're powerhouses. It's hard to go against defending national champion teams like Alabama and Oklahoma. They're always there, so definitely good picks there. But like you mentioned, not all Power 5 conferences are playing this fall, with the Pac-12 and the Big Ten suspending their seasons until the spring. So which of the teams that will not be playing in the fall but playing in the spring do you think, what are you most interested to see when those teams finally do take the field in the spring?
I'm interested to see Minnesota. They have their quarterback returning, Tanner Morgan, who had 30 touchdowns, 3,000 yards passing, but they did lose their top rusher. So I'm just curious to see how everything will play out for their team in particular.
Yeah, Minnesota was a team that kind of came out of nowhere last year with under PJ Fleck now in his first year at Minnesota. So it'll be interesting to see in year 2, after losing some seniors and stuff like that, if he can keep the mojo going. For me, Lots of teams that I'm going to be missing this fall. Penn State not having the wideout. They're going to be losing their star, Micah Parsons, as he's opted to just prepare for the NFL draft. Also, these Big Ten games, while they're playing in the spring, football games are in February and March are going to be ugly. Like, they are cold and brutal times to be playing football, so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts players. Ohio State, one of the top teams in the country, not seeing them in the fall or in contention for the college football playoff is going to be a big gap. Not being able to see Justin Fields, probably the most electric player in the country, and just seeing the rest of the Big Ten. I always find that it's a fun conference. In my opinion, the second best overall conference in college football behind the SEC. And then from the Pac-12, I'm going to miss Oregon's uniforms because I can't wait to see what they come out with after this pandemic. I know they've been waiting to release some stuff, so I really can't wait to see that. But shifting from a national focus to here in the Creek, Caitlin, Campbell football has currently scheduled all 4 of their possible out-of-conference games this fall, with Sun Belt opponents in Georgia Southern, Appalachian State, and Coastal Carolina, and as announced just today, they're most recently with their first ever ACC opponent in Wake Forest. In all of these games, the Camels will be on the road and underdogs. But is there any game out of these 4 that you think the Camels can win?
So I actually think that Campbell has a chance of beating Wake Forest. They won't have the atmosphere they're normally used to, and I think our team will be very hyped up to be going against an ACC school, and we'll take a win on the road.
All right. For me, Georgia Southern, I think, is our most probable team to beat. They're a triple option team, similar to Kennesaw State, who we face in the Big South, so we're familiar with trying to defend that offense. But in contrast to how Georgia Southern likes to run their offense, we have a really high-powered one with Haj Malik Williams and Caleb Snead returning, probably the most dynamic duo in the Big South. And on paper, this is by far the most talented team that I think we've had at Campbell University, and I think finding a win is definitely possible out of these 4 games. I think Georgia Southern is where we do it. But that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on Campbell Now. Make sure to leave us a like, share us, and leave a comment on what you think about today's topics. Till next time, I'm Isaac Ray.
And I'm Caitlin Edwards.
Thank you for watching.